Welcome everyone to the Business for Artrepreneur panel. We're so glad you're here today, especially since we think this is one of the more important, I can't say they're equally important, but this is really important for artists today to know about business as an artist, because you just don't want to just do what you're passionate about, but be able to make a living out of it. So today we have three really great panelists here for you, and they're going to introduce yourself, but the first person is Dan Flores. Dan Flores does a lot of illustration as an illustrator, but he also does tattoos, and he also started a 501c3 called Artist King Foundation, and it's mainly to also encourage artists to be entrepreneurs. And we also have here Marcus Williams. Marcus Williams is just a regular comic artist. He just raised like 70-something K on Kickstarter for his comic books.
Right.
Not that important. Yeah. And also, this is Lee. Lee right here is our entertainment lawyer, and she's also been involved with many different types of organizations, well, in Atlanta. And not only that, she also is a producer. So she knows the parts about pitching and things like that, and is not just a lawyer, but is a lawyer who knows what is needed to be known. So maybe we can start you guys off by introducing yourselves.
Thanks, Ginger. I just want everyone to give a round of applause to Ginger for being so hardworking. And all the other volunteers and ASIFA, and congrats on your first animation festival.
Thank you.
So, the three of us kind of chatted before, and we figured we would just kind of start off with a little bit about our origin stories and to give you a little idea about who we are, but more importantly, geared to the topic, when did we decide to be our own boss? Because this is really about being your own boss and being an entrepreneur, in addition to being a creative. So adding another layer to that skill set. And I'm gonna actually toss it to Dan or Marcus. I'm going to answer last, so I'm going to see if one of you guys want to take it from here.
Yeah. Go for it. Man. Okay. Good evening, or yes. Thank you guys for coming out. Marcus Williams is my name. I am definitely an illustrator by trade. I called myself that long before I started doing comics. But just to speak into how I got here, 17 years ago, I was getting out of high school. Around that time, working at the movie theater, and a lady that a girl that I used to go to school with, she comes up to the movie theater. She's like, "Oh, my dad's like, art director at Cartoon Network." I was like, "You better stop lying." For real? For real? Let's go meet him now. Let's go now. I get off like in an hour or so. But we really went to go meet him. So it's go to our uncle's house. I have just my sketchbook with a whole bunch of crappy sketches here and there. And he looks at the sketchbook. He's like, "This is actually pretty good, man. I'm gonna give you a test. If you pass it, got some freelance for you." At the time, Powerpuff Girls was really popular on TV. Lo and behold, I passed the test, and I'm doing pages for Powerpuff Girls, and making the best money a 19-year-old has ever seen. Just giving, I was doing like 8 pages for $3 grand. So, and it was just pencil pages, blue pencils, and I still got the receipts just to make sure no one called me a liar. And from there, I made that decision. As a young man, this is what I want to do for my living. I want to do art and make money. However, no one paid me that much right after that. So as soon as that freelance job ended, came business cards and logos and crappy stuff that it wasn't nearly as fun. But fast forward, a lot of freelance later, I did make that choice that Lee was talking about in terms of I wanted to do children's books and comics. And that decision led me to the path I am now. I'm creating my own comic with a business partner of mine I've been working with for a long time called Tuskegee Airs. Independently created, we kickstarted it for about $74,000. So we're self-publishing, distributing, and marketing all ourselves. So I'm working on that right now.
Awesome. Very cool.
My name is Dan. You can call me DTM or The Creative Genius. I've been an artist all my life. I don't remember a time when I was not drawing. I grew up drawing Batman. He's the best comic book hero out there. And that's right. There you go. And 20 years ago, I started doing tattoos. I got to Atlanta, and a friend of mine dropped me off in front of a tattoo shop, and he said, "Go in there, show him your work." And I started my tattoo career right then and there. It was easy in those days to get into the business because there was like 5 tattoo shops in all of Georgia, and now there's like 5 tattoo shops in every corner. It's crazy, right? And I started just with an apprenticeship, and I knew the only thing I wanted to do was get paid to draw. That was it. And ever since then, I've had a couple of jobs. When I started my apprenticeship, I was a forklift driver, and I quit. I almost got fired. I think I wrecked some stuff, and they were yelling at me. And I'm sure I was going to get fired that day. But I said, you know what, y'all can have this, and I'm out. And so I dedicated myself to drawing nonstop and getting paid for it. I started with the tattoos. The internet started then becoming a thing right after that. So you know how old I am. It was the 90s with great times, good stuff. And so the internet started becoming a thing. I learned how to do websites. I learned how to do flyers. And I was doing flyers for clubs all over Atlanta. So I could get into any club back when that mattered in my life. I could get into any club I wanted to, just go in there, hang out. And then as time went on, I decided that I did not want to sit down in a shop waiting for somebody to walk in to get a tattoo or a paint. And me spend my day there every day. Because once you put office hours on the building, like you should be there those hours. And so I decided I just want to be a full-time artist who took on the projects that he wanted whenever I wanted. And I focused on my drawings, focused on my art, and I work on all kinds of projects now. From painting to murals to art installations to tattoos. I'm still doing tattoos and illustration work all the time. I love just drawing and creating new stuff. And so a few years ago, after 20 years as a working artist, I'm getting a lot of questions from other artists, emails, phone calls, texts. Dan, I need to make money. Usually I get an email from or a phone call from an artist after he quit his regular job. Said, I'm ready to be a full-time artist. I'm like, no, go back and get your job. Because you have to have a certain level of preparation. And so what I decided to do was, along with my wife and a couple other artists, we founded Artist King. And what we do is that once a month we have a free meetup where artists of all calibers come and share their story. I bring in professional artists to come and discuss some of the trials and tribulations they've gone through and help emerging artists get themselves prepared for the art life. And a full-time art life. And that's what I do, and that's who I am. Check me out, Delta Tango Mike, everywhere on the internet.
I wish I had known that about the tattoo background, because I just did a CLE, continued legal education course at the State Bar on copyright and tattoos.
Oh,
so a lot of tattoo
nice.
artists are starting to assert their rights with entertainment projects, interestingly enough. So it's a developing area of the law.
What about those tattoos of Hello Kitties? Like the Hello Kitty tattoos, are those like copyrighted or infringing or anything? You have to erase them?
I will answer that question after the panel. So I did that on purpose because I wanted to hear these guys' stories so that I could kind of pinpoint common things that I heard in their story and talk about mine as well. But the first, and I'll just read it in this order. The first thing that I noticed was you get this feeling. There's this quiet inner voice, that speaks to you. And I'm very intuitive, which is weird out here for a lawyer to be very intuitive, but I go with my gut a lot because I was an artist before I was a lawyer. And so I got that feeling that I was on the right track of doing, because if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to believe in yourself, right? You got to be able to sell yourself. And the best way to sell something is to really believe it, to drink your own Kool-Aid, right? And not even realize you're drinking Kool-Aid. But having that feeling happened when I was volunteering at the radio station at Georgia State University at Album 88 in the 90s. And I had 3 shows, and I had a great time. I also had I never paid to get into a club for like 5 years because, or ever any drinks ever, when that mattered to me a long time ago. And so I just had that feeling of service was my calling, and service in the arts. And then I got the feeling again when the photographer I was working for got sued and he ran out of money to pay his lawyer, so he bartered my services to his lawyer. I spent a day in that office, made more money than I'd ever made as a photographer's assistant, and not only that, I saw how I could really make a meaningful contribution to changing people's lives, and the intellectual pursuit of information and then applying that information in a meaningful way was also attractive to me. But like many of artists, I'm very empathic, so I was easily traumatized by certain areas of the law. Like, I could never be a criminal lawyer or a family lawyer or a human rights lawyer, and even though those are all really attractive areas to me, I just knew that I was literally sitting in a pizza parlor, and there was this lawyer talking to me, and I was like, I want to go into entertainment, but I don't know if that's meaningful. And he looks at me and he was like, everybody plays their part. And so that was like the best, probably most unintended advice that I ever took. One of the most meaningful pieces of advice I took. So I went into law school, and it took years, and that's the other thing, I never gave up. Like, I never ever gave up. It took me 11 years to finish getting that law degree from the moment I realized I wanted it, but I never gave up. And then another 5 years to be sitting in front of you now. So it was a circuitous path, but I never gave up. And the moment when I realized I wanted to do my own practice, which is incredibly challenging as a lawyer. It's hard enough to go through law school, take the bar, but then to also start your own firm in this industry, in the entertainment industry. Thank God for Georgia tax credits, because otherwise, I mean, this would not be a safe place for me to have my own practice, I think, as an entertainment lawyer. But I just, I couldn't get a job. I couldn't get a job when I graduated. The market was just flooded with lawyers in Georgia, and this was 2012. I couldn't even get a Christmas job at Macy's, guys. Like, I was so depressed. And then one of my mentors gave me a contract, and I took the contract, and it was just a short job, and that ended really quickly. So again, I was really sad, but something happened right then and there. Like, 3 things happened at once that made me realize I had to start my own business. And it was, I paid, $5 for a CLE at Georgia State, or no, I paid $25, I got 5 hours of credit, which is a huge value, and it was a solo workshop CLE. So I'm going into the solo workshop, and I spent a whole day at this school, and everything I took in was stuff I was already doing. So I was super validated at the end of the day. Like, I'm already on Twitter, I'm already on social media, I'm already like an authority in my area, because I just love what I do. I love art, I love entertainment, so I'm always writing and talking about it. So for me, that was just a lot of other things came together. A music producer that I was friends with from my DJ career and being on the radio, that I'd known for 10 years, suddenly had a trademark issue he needed help with. And I served in intellectual property for 8 years before going to law school. So for me, that was my comfort zone. And thank God I did well at trademark law in law school, you know. That was the other piece of hard advice, was just because you love something doesn't mean you're good at it. So I was really grateful that all of my top grades were in copyright, trademark, and IP licensing and secure transactions. I was like, thank God, you know, I'm good at what I want to do. Somebody Facebook tagged me, and the next thing I know, I'm sitting down with this guy talking about helping him with his trademark issue. And I knew before I went to see him, I was like, I have to be legit. I cannot go there without a legit entity, and I have to do this the right way. And so those 3 things coming together made me form my company in March of 2013. And I cannot believe I'm in my 5th year. It's just a miracle. It's a blessing, but it's a lot of hard work.
Awesome.
So let's talk about the arc, because we talked about development, and so it takes time to grow companies. So can y'all talk a little bit about your phases of growth? Like, have there been any real benchmarks or milestones that have pushed you forward?
Okay. I think there was a time, I'm losing count now, but it had to be 2012 or 2013. I had no followers whatsoever on any social media. I think on Facebook I had like 500 people that I didn't really know. But it was that moment in 2011, that's when I made the choice of children's books and comics. So I started working on both. Children's books came first with my business partner, Greg. But then the comic thing landed, where I went into a comic shop. The owner wanted to make a comic book about cats, strangely enough. And he's like, you know how to draw cats? I was like, And sure enough, we started drawing a cat comic called Hero Cats of Stellar City. That led into me, going to comic conventions for the first time as an actual, a vendor sitting behind the table, and he's, the owner of a comic shop, and he's actually really, really good at selling stuff. And by that, I mean I'll give you an example, 3 large, burly men are walking by the table, and he's like, hey guys, come here, I got something for you. I was like, what are you doing? Grown men, I don't want a cat comic. And he's like, no, I got this. And sure enough, by the end of this transaction, you got 3 burly grown men that are giggling, saying, yeah, no, my girlfriend will love it, man, yeah, And he's like, you got a girlfriend? No. Well, you going somewhere tonight? Like, yeah, I'm going out to eat. Take this comic, okay? And sure enough, they all bought a comic, and I'm just like dumbstruck. I'm like, well, I can't tell him anything now because he's damn good at selling stuff. So I learned a lot about, being a good salesman, talking to people at conventions, selling yourself first. It's door-to-door salesman in this big convention area. That's really all. It's a social event. So that led into the arc of me saying, okay, well, how do I make money? Because I did the comic for about 3 years, and all the while I'm looking at everyone else's table. I'm looking at the artists that have lines. I'm looking at the business. I'm talking to people that have succeeded at Kickstarter. I hadn't done any Kickstarters before then, just gathering all this info. And I kept listening to what fans coming up to the table were asking for. And there was this big gap as far as, I don't have anything to give to my kids. The industry wants to focus on this, but my kids don't have anything that I can show them. You got over-sexualization, you have lack of representation of ethnicities and superhero comics. There's nothing for young kids, like zero, in terms of superhero and or fantasy stuff at the time. So that arc, in my mind, was to come up with a solution. And at the Comic Cons, and I'm sure she can say, Lee can, there's this bubble of legal protection that artists, fans, and the convention, and the city really, so it's a win-win-win-win, where you can create artwork that is, copyright, protected characters, and sell it at a convention, and the fans love it. The convention owners can invite these, big-name artists. Fans come to the convention because of those big-name artists, and they get to walk around and see all these different art of characters they love. So I made that decision to say, well, I'm going to focus on making the underrepresented superheroes. That's the Luke Cages, the Misty Knights, the Storm, the Bishop, the Blades, that don't have their own books right now. I'm gonna make them young. Okay, I'm just starting. I called it Young Heroes, and from there I just started, posting this stuff online, and the fan following over a good couple of years just kept snowballing. But people to this day are still like, this is absolute. I wanted to get something from my kids' room. I can't buy the Hulk; he's too mad. I can't buy that lady. Her stuff's popping all, everywhere, and it's just, that arc of understanding who am I in this ocean of brilliantly talented artists. I am not by any means special in terms of my skill level. I try to keep telling young artists, don't focus on that. There's 50 artists that live and breathe art every day. They go to sleep drawing, they wake up drawing. The last panel was saying something about Korean animators. They get in their space, they work all day, they don't talk. They eat, they go back to their desk, and they work all night. And then they maybe go home. It's one of those things where I'm not worried about the skill, but there was a huge, huge problem, something that was missing. And for me, I solved that problem by just saying, well, let me just fill a little bit of this hole. And from that, my fan base found me, saying, holy crap, this is everything I needed. Teachers would love this in their room, parents, kids that are into comics that know these characters, but don't see them in comics, or movies, or cartoons. So that's kind of where the art, for me, Tuskegee airs. There's no comic that has 5 young African-American teenagers that are all capable, educated, driving planes that transform into giant robots. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. So I've been watching anime and cartoons all my life, and if I would have had a comic like that, it would have blew my mind as a young artist, and I would have drawn the whole comic back and forth. I would have, fell in love with it. But that's the kind of thing where the arc for me, business-wise, is stop trying to compete with other artists. Don't try to compete with the best artist who's been doing what he's been doing for 20 years. He already has his lane. He or she already has his lane. Find your lane by paying attention to what's not being represented. Okay, and don't complain about Marvel and DC or whoever else. Why don't you guys make a comic about robotic dogs? Okay, that sounds like a great idea. That's their money though. It's like going to McDonald's and asking for spaghetti. It doesn't make any sense. They're gonna say, well, we can make a mixed spaghetti, side meal, but it's probably gonna be crappy, and you're probably gonna complain about it because it's like, what do you call that, spaghetti sauce? Yeah, it's our special sauce. And you're just going to be, really, really not happy about that product. So if you have something unique, focus on what you want to create. Find the people that have the same like-minded with you. Luckily, I've had a business partner for 17 years who I can call him bad names. I can tell him his ideas suck. He can tell me my ideas suck sometimes, and we still respect each other and get things done. So a lot of it is definitely focus. Look inwards first about what you want to achieve with your own, path. And from there, pay attention to the rest of the industry. And there's 15 people doing one thing. I'm not going to try to compete with the guys that have been doing it for 30 years. Let me try something that maybe tweak what they're doing and focus on this. So.
All right. Yes, ma'am. He is a very special person.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Well, my story is a little bit, has its ups and downs, and I guess we'll get to those risks later, but some of the parts where the growth happened in my life, it has several spots where that happened. But the one thing I want you to preface that with is that I never went to college, I never went to school beyond high school. I said I graduated high school, I got my diploma, I gave it to my mom, I said good job, and I left home. So I've never taken any college classes, I don't know anything about what it's like to live in college. But I do know that I've learned from other people, and I've continued to learn all the time. And so growing up, my family is, I come from a family of merchants. I say this is a lot, my wife makes fun of me, but it's true. My grandparents, my mother, they all sold something. My mother sold Avon, Tupperware, y'all don't know nothing about that. This is the 80s. And so I always heard that pitch. I always hear the pitch constantly. So as I got older and I left home, I joined the Marine Corps, and I was in the Marine Corps, and I started to draw all the time and keep my drawings. That's when I started to keep my drawings. And so I was hear from other people and grown-ups and older people than me saying, keep that up, keep that going. And then I was hear from other younger people saying, nah, man, that's crazy, don't do that. But when I got to Atlanta, I took that path of becoming a tattoo apprentice. And so I quit my job, right? And I went focused. I went all in on tattooing. I lost the girlfriend that I had at that time because she could not understand how you could go from a steady job, getting paid once a week, to something that may or may not happen. And it's just something that happened. It's just a story. So here I am doing the tattoo thing, and so I had a person who was teaching me the business of tattooing. Within 2 years, I opened my own tattoo shop. So then I built my own team so that I could have a tattoo shop. So we had 5 of us in the tattoo shop, and I found the money to build that tattoo shop and then make it a business. But every time things happen in my life, I either join up or find somebody to work with, and it doesn't mean that you're going to be working with them forever. It could be just a stepping stone and a part of your life. So then after the tattoo shop, 8 years in, we realized we did not know enough to go further with that business. So we shut it down. I got tired of it. I was burnt out of doing the same old Panthers and hearts and praying hands. And so I decided to, and I was really unhappy with my art. So I decided I wanted to focus on the art that I like that got me into becoming an artist, and that was pencil drawing. So I started just going back to the basics and so on. I did not let go of tattooing. I still have customers. I still have things that I wanted to do with the art, but I needed to find myself and focus on myself. And that's where the third part of my life came in, where learning about entrepreneurship and startup, and the startup mentality. The startup mentality is you have to be lean, meaning your bills are real small. You don't have cable. You don't have internet at home. You don't have certain things. You don't drink. You don't do drugs. You don't do all kinds of things to spend a lot of money. So you focus on the basics in life. And so through having mentors in that area, I was able then to learn further on what I can do with my art career and what are my potentials and how do I follow that. And so in the last about 6 years, that's when I really focused on what entrepreneurship is. And so all that time being an artist, I get paid when I do art. And now as an entrepreneur, I want to get paid even when I'm not doing art. I want that art that I make to keep on paying me and paying me and paying me. And that's a true entrepreneurship, right? And so, but every time I've elevated or moved to the next stepping stone, it's because I have a different team or build another network or connect with other people that help me get somewhere else. Even though I still know some of the people from the past. And my business partner, who I opened a tattoo shop with back in 1997, he's my brother-in-law. I married his sister. He wasn't happy about that, but he's okay. He's okay now. And I still know him to this day. And I still love him as a brother, and we still give each other advice, and we talk, and so on. So there are some people you're never going to get rid of, and you're not going to just because you don't work with them, now you don't talk to them, but they become part of a bigger picture, and you build onto more and more. And I just saw Andrew walk in here, and he's another person who I connect with, and like he's in the industry and games. I want to create a mobile game, and so I'm soaking up stuff that he's putting out. I'm soaking it all up. And the day I'm ready and I have my artwork ready and he's heard my story many times, and I build him to the next team and so on. So that's where I'm headed. I've focused on creating my own properties and projects because you will meet people, and it's okay when you're starting out. You'll meet people and say, hey man, I got this great idea, let's do it. And they promise to do a part of the work, and you're going to do part of the work. And then in the end, nothing happens, or the success is really not what they said it was going to be, or they really don't know what they're talking about. But you have to go through those things. You have to go through those steps. And if I'm going to work for free, let me work on my project. Let me work on the things that I want to build. That's going to be my for free. And so as an artist, as an entrepreneur, you have always two jobs, always. You either have a job that pays your bills, and then you do your own projects or work and build up your portfolio, or as a full-time artist, you have your client work and then your own projects. So that's where I'm at. I have my own properties, my own artwork, my own characters that I'm building up. I'm going to get to Marcus's level one day. And but I'm still working the kind of artwork that I like to do, that I enjoy, so that then it keeps it fresh, that keeps me going, and I don't feel like now it's a chore that I don't want to do.
That's really good advice, you guys. So for me, they don't teach you business in law school, period. Not really. And so for me, my learning curve was pretty hefty when I finished. Taking the bar wasn't enough. I had to learn the businesses of the clients that I would be serving. And I had a tiny head start in law school. I joined a trade association for the record industry, and that was helpful with the networking. But really, what law school taught me wasn't the law; it was teaching me how to teach myself, basically anything. So I think being an entrepreneur, being able to teach yourself concepts and then apply those concepts is critical to growth and to learning, period. And that's something that I always keep doing, is I keep learning new things. And so I was learning about the music business and constantly building the network. So another thing, being an entrepreneur, the reason I knew I'd be successful being a solo practitioner in the entertainment industry here is, and this is a joke my mom likes to make, she says 20 years of partying is now paying off, because I was clubbing in 1993. I was like out 6 nights a week, I was a regular. I mean, I danced, I did all those things that kids do, and so finally in the DJing and everything, and so for me, I just turned over my social circles into my new client circles. And so, and a lot of the people I was with back then had become very successful in their own ways. So, and one of those people was actually, since we're talking about Andrew, that I met when I was a kid, and now I see him all the time. So I started with the music business, and because of Andrew, again, I was welcomed into the world of games, and which was a wonderful place to be. And then from there, I met Ginger and other, mainly Ginger, who drew me into film and animation. And I was actually sitting with my car mechanic one day, and another piece of advice that I wasn't really, it made me uncomfortable. So whenever a piece of advice makes you uncomfortable, that's a good sign, because it means that's an area of growth maybe to explore. But he told me, he's like, if everybody stopped driving Miatas today and started driving Camaros tomorrow, I would learn how to build Camaros. And he's like, he used that as an analogy for the film industry, because I was doing music and games, but he's like, you gotta, think about film. Aren't you working in film? And so this sort of all happened at the same time. So I spent a whole year studying film, like treatises and cases and all this stuff, and really soaking it in. And so I paid attention to what the market called for, what the state of Georgia, the direction it was headed, that it had already been heading. And so that's, something that Marcus brought up is, what is the market calling for, and get some feedback on that, do the research. So I have been doing that and trying to understand. The film industry in particular is a special place because it combines music, aspects of music. There's mobile apps. It's a perfect medium to serve the three major industries that I serve: games, music, and film. So I was paying attention. What are the problems we're having? So it's actually taking the time to do the research, and a lot of you will just set yourself apart from your competition when you actually take time to do the research and to get out and network and to I took like over 200 free consultations this year, so I could it was like a focus group for me, so I could talk to potential clients about what is going on in your life and what are the issues that you're facing, and that was meaningful for me to have that kind of feedback, because it's really helped me fine tune what I'm doing as an entrepreneur and heading into my next phase of growth. So being authentic was something else I think Marcus was talking about as well, finding your niche. I've always been weird. I was actually told this year by another lawyer who's practicing much longer than I that I am too young to be this eccentric. And I thought, okay. I was like, you think I'm eccentric now? You should have seen me 20 years ago when I had pink hair and boots and you should have seen me then. I'm like way toned down now, but I realized that is a marketing point because of the people I'm serving. So I went out and I feel like I'm finally free enough to do. As an entrepreneur, it's all about that freedom, right? There's a trade-off though, right? It's called pressure. Lots of pressure. You're the breadwinner and you're the rainmaker. So there's definitely a trade-off. But for me, it was that freedom to finally be who I really am and to attract. So when you're really being who you truly are, you attract the people the people that I'm attracting now are the people that I want to work with, and it just seems to be a natural pairing. So for me, that meant getting a full back tattoo, doing this, and now I have a YouTube channel called The Lawyer with the Dragon Tattoo. It's awesome, and I have a podcast, called Cinematic, and I'm a DJ, so I found a way to still DJ and then sell my art, if you will. To music supervisors in Hollywood looking for music for their productions, and then I'm combining it with that YouTube channel, and I'm teaching young artists and producers from all around the world how to place, how to prepare their catalogs. And I'm not making money off of this, but this is just my outlet, But it's again being your authentic self, and I swear to you, I did not honestly expect to be doing this 12 months ago when I realized there was an opportunity with this new style of music that's been underground for like 4 years or so. London always claims the birthplace of everything cool. So I found out that this is where it was allegedly coming from. I opened up a new Twitter account. I started tweeting to other supervisors. I was like, please place this music, do something. Somebody do it. I was like, please, somebody do it. and nobody did it. And then one of the composers got together with me early this year and was like, "Would you represent me?" And I'm like, "I'm not going to say no." So okay. And then 2 months ago, this guy, he could be my kid. In Maryland, this young producer, he's in his senior year of high school. He got in touch with me on my SoundCloud, on my DJ page, and he's like, "Would you be my MC? Would you host my podcast?" And I'm like, okay, and how cool. And so I was like, F it, I'm going to get past my fear. I'm going to learn GarageBand. I'm going to learn, all this shit, stuff. And I'm going to do it. And suddenly everything became crystalline clear, like the path just started opening. And it's just about being your authentic self and and nobody is doing this. So I'm excited. We're launching on Tuesday. So,
Awesome.
Yeah, we're launching next Tuesday. I'm going to tie it up because I know I'm going on, but I think I said, the sacrifice. Somebody said make sacrifice. Dan was talking about being mean. You're going to make sacrifices nobody else is willing to make. You're going to work harder. You're going to work on Friday nights and Saturday nights. You're going to do all of this because it's so gratifying. I mean, you'll know that you're doing the right thing when you want to be doing, when you carve out half of your Saturday for the next 4 months because you want to do something that meaningful to you. I think that is not even a sacrifice. It's just, but again, with the bills and with the cable, you find ways to it's about cash flow. You're going to have to learn spreadsheets. I hate accounting with a passion, and the first person I will hire will be my CPA when I get to that next growth spurt, when you realize you need staff. But I've been automating a lot of things, thank God for technology. I have a website that's fully automated. People can do their own appointments. I think you get to points where time is money, and you finally have to start realizing how you can delegate. And so we live in an age of technology now where there's so many software and applications out there that make our lives so much easier than it did 10 years ago. So that's another thing that you'll start noticing as you get more successful. You'll be looking for ways to delegate those tasks. You'll look for apps and eventually, hopefully, real people. And when you have to get an accountant, that's a good problem to have. So I think that's it. Let's talk about risk, because I think one thing that scares a lot of people out of being their own boss is the risk. What is the risks associated with it? So you guys, let's talk about good and bad risks, and then finish it with what's the biggest risk you've ever taken, and how did it turn out?
Just thinking back, as far as good risk, I guess if I lost my hand, I'm sorry. As far as risk, good risk to me is, I guess, best defined by you know where you want to go, you know exactly the direction. You've done the research, like she was just saying, and it's a question mark still, which is okay. I want to get to the other side of this ledge. I'm about to jump off this ledge to make it over there. What if the ledge breaks when I land? What if I don't jump hard enough and now I'm falling? There's big question marks all around your next move. But it's a good risk if you've planned ahead to say, all right, well, if I suck on jumping, but I got this rope, all right, and this grappling hook, all right, and I'm going to shoot this like that, and if I fall, I got this safety net. All right, so if that doesn't work out, I'm cool. So good risk, in my opinion, it's like planned risk, I guess you can call it. So you don't know if it's going to go exactly the way you planned. But if it doesn't, you're still not going to die. Life is not going to end.
Calculated risk.
Calculated risk. That's wonderful one too. So that there was at least a good number of those that occurred because I got. My marriage, 14 years, ended around 2010, and I had to move back with my mom. You guys don't know my mom. Okay. I do. It was one of the hardest decisions. I had 2 kids that I kept with me, so I was a single father. My mom at the time needed help taking care of my older brother. He had I guess a brain condition once he came back from Iraq, so she needed help taking care of him. So I made that decision to say, oh God, all right, Mom, help. And I kid you not, it was the hardest 4 years of my life. Okay, because not only does my mom love to argue about the dumbest things in the world, there was energy associated with making, I had to make sure my, kids that were in pre-K and first grade knew that I cared about their day. I had to work on a cat comic. I didn't know how to draw cats well at the time. And I had to cut grass, for 3 to 4 hours because my mom wants everything immaculate. And I was like, Mom, I don't have time for this. So that was a really, really calculated risk for me. But I didn't have myself. I tried to not be selfish with that risk. My kids needed a motherly figure. And I could think of no one better than my mom. She was a wonderful, amazing woman and, the perfect nurturer. So I knew I was going to be gone working on this comic book, going to conventions. And I didn't want to have to worry about who's going to be watching my kids. And so it was a calculated risk. It sucked, personally. But during that time, I gave up everything else. I did not go to clubs. I didn't go out anywhere. I met with my business partner occasionally. I went to comic conventions. I worked at a comic shop, about 3 days out of the week. Weekends, I would do something with my kids, and then I'd just go back to work at the next week. So 4 years of this, that was a calculated risk. And throughout that 4 years, I kept making, these other things. Well, Facebook. God, I hate Instagram. I don't want to do that, but all right, I'll do that. And, years later, I'm at 50,000 plus followers on Instagram. Something I did not even want to do is now, I have the most followers on, and it's still snowballing that way. But bad risk just is the opposite of calculated risk. You do no research. You have no insight on what you're doing. I like to think 5 steps ahead and really, really say, okay, I want to learn 3D. I was mentioning this to Lee. I want to go into 3D graphic. I want to learn how to model my characters. I've been drawing 2D for too dang long, so I want to be able to turn my ideas. And I've done it the wrong way at least 3 times now. Bad risk where I get software and I'm just gonna play around it. It's a terrible idea. Some of the softwares are they're too big. You have to know what you want to do. It's best to get some guidance. And so to this day, I'm still kind of playing with that. I bought lynda.com, bought my subscription to lynda.com. I'm planning out a few weekends coming up in this next month or so where I'm just gonna veg out, do nothing, sit in my underwear and watch, about 7+ hours of 3D art training. So, that's a good risk. Bad risk or if you don't plan for it. So the biggest risk that I took is when I want to say I got laid off of a great job. I was working at howstuffworks.com as an in-house illustrator. Wonderful position, great job, great money. I got laid off in it was 2007. I was working there. Couldn't get a job to save my life. I had a great portfolio, sending out resumes left and right to everyone, calling people. Hey man, you guys need an artist? No one at the time wanted to hire. So my biggest risk, I had 2 kids, my marriage was failing, and I needed to make a decision on how I was going to, move forward with my career. Was I going to? But the biggest questions I asked myself was, do you ever want to get fired again? And that was a big, wonderful, resounding no. I don't want to give anyone the ability to ever lay me off, fire me because whatever, they just felt bad on Monday or Friday. And, controlling the creative narrative that's up here. Because I knew that my ideas weren't bad. It's just no one was paying me for my ideas. That's what, in my head. So freelance was the biggest question. But I had no idea. There was no one I can turn to at that time to say, what's the best path? Luckily, and I have to say luckily because I didn't do it, someone that knew that I could illustrate passed it on to a client that wanted to start from a logo, but not in there. She wanted to build an entire brand, but she needed an illustrator for the whole step. I designed her logo. She wanted to do a family business. So she wanted coloring books, she wanted, apparel, she wanted character design. And when it was all said and done a year later, I had built everything visually for this woman's business. Everything. So much so that she was, Marcus, I heard you can sing. Yeah, I can do that. Well, do you write too? I don't know. Just give it a shot. And I ended up writing like 5 kids' songs for her, recording them, things like this. I'd never done that with anyone, so it's just this whirlwind of first-time things for me. And that was the biggest risk because I had 2 kids that depended every single day. They eat every day. I don't know why. But, it was day after day, I was taking another risk. I could have said no to a number of things, like I'm not comfortable in that area, I don't want to sing your songs. But I got paid to do something I had never done for any client before. As an artist, I'm an illustrator. I never got paid for singing or writing music before. But it opened up all of these doors, so now I can say, to the next client, well, what do you want? Because I can do a couple of things that aren't related to art if you need it. And the biggest risk I ever took that paid off marvelously, because directly after that, 2011, I was able to say, I did a couple of children's books already. I did some coloring books. Did that whole process from start to finish. I could probably do a children's book. And I could do some comics. So that was my biggest one.
Good. Risk. So if you don't know how to play chess, you should go out and start today. When he said thinking moves ahead, that's what chess is about. And it's not a game. It's really a thought process. It's how you work through problem solving. And so the risk, it was good to me when I left the job, forklift driving, and started doing tattoos full time. But you're still working with somebody else. You're still working in somebody else's business. And no matter how much money I charged for each tattoo, I was only going to get a certain amount from each tattoo. And so a year after working in that, and it was at that tattoo shop and through that guy where I learned how to play chess. He taught me how to play chess. It made me that much smarter. So then a year later, no matter how much work I put in, I'm only going to get so much out. That's it. That's how it works. This is that guy's business. So things were not looking good. The risk was good in my life that now I was a full-time artist, but the bad risk is that it's somebody else's business. And so we got to a point where things were really looking bad. We started asking for more money, and the guy decided that he was just going to raise prices so that my percentage was still the same, but I would get more money because the price was higher, which still doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like a raise. And so by then I already asked a friend of mine for money if he wanted to invest into a tattoo shop that I would open. And I asked the rest of the tattoo artists to come and join me at this new tattoo shop, and they said yes. So we decided to have a meeting with the tattoo shop owner and to tell him about our grievances and try to get some kind of new setup. And once we got past the first point, the guy blew up, started cursing us. And so we had made an agreement that at the moment things went bad, we would all get our stuff and leave at the same time. Right? Isn't that, I think that's what they call going on strike or something. And so I got my stuff, and one other person got their stuff, but nobody else moved. And that's because you don't know, right? You're always afraid about stuff. So in any case, that night I left. I knew I had money to invest into a new place and into my own studio. And it took a month before the other people left, and so all of us had left that shop. We were all gone. And so the key was that we weren't ready to make that move if you did not prepare, if you did not have some backup to get you going. And so years later, I left that, shut that down, and I went all in about my business. I wanted to be all in about my own art. And by then the internet is all famous, and everybody's posting artwork online, and next thing I know, there's this guy selling stickers for my artwork, and nobody asked me if I wanted them to do that, right? And that just gives you a whole nother set of problems. Of course, we have an entertainment lawyer, copyright, IP stuff, and she may give you the real answer, And I tell artists, don't be afraid. If you don't want someone to steal your art, keep it in your house. Never show it to nobody, because somebody will be able to take it and steal it, and it's going to happen that way. So in my case, when those things have happened, and I've seen posts where other people will post my artwork and say, "Oh yeah, I'm just drawing late at night," and I'm like, "But that's my artwork. How you drawing late at night?" And it's like, but that's the business. That's how it goes, and you can't be afraid of that. So you have to go, and that's the good and bad risk. But if you understand copyrights and you trademark your work and you go through an attorney and you invest that part of that money into your business, then it's not a bad risk. It's just a risk, and you have backup for it. So you have to think about those things. In my case, I've gone through all of that. My own original artwork, I have copyrights on it. I have protection. The law allows for a whole lot more things than if you just go at it and just throw it out there on the internet. But don't ever let that stop you anyways, no matter what, because you have to show your work, you have to show your portfolio, you have to prove yourself, and in today's social media day and age, you have to get out there and post. So that's what I tell artists. My biggest risk that I ever took was trust, dealing with trust. It's the hardest thing because of the tattoo shop I worked at. When I left that tattoo shop that day, half the artwork on the wall was mine, and I left it behind. And I was 24 years old, something like that. And it hurt. It hurt because I was losing the job. I was breaking up a great relationship that I thought I had with this guy who taught me a lot of stuff. He was my mentor. And you got, when you storm out of a place, you got to storm out right then and there. You can't just take your time, right? And so I had to leave that artwork behind. And in my mind, I had to tell myself, you know what? I'm still young. I have many more years to go. My art is going to improve. It's going to grow. I'm going to create a lot more artwork than what you see right now. And so you have to. So through those things, you start feeling a little bit cynical about, I don't know what you're saying. Let me prove it to me first, because I don't feel like trusting you. And so once I was out on my own 10 years ago, I shut down my tattoo shop at the end of 2005. 2006, I'm just focused on my artwork. And in 2005, when I shut down my tattoo shop, I got rid of a relationship that I had for 7 years. We lived together, lived a home life, all that stuff, and I had to cut it off. It was a lot of things going on, not just the business, but my personal life that I was very unhappy with, and I had to let that go. So 2006, I'm spending it focused on myself. 2007, I start to date, and of course, it was my best friend's sister. And then in 2009 we got married, But that was my biggest risk. Is to me is that I all I have is myself, and I give all of myself completely. And all I have is this talent that if I can put it to work right and I can focus on it, I can get anywhere I want, because I've seen other artists do it. Right? Cartoons exist for a reason. They've been around for a long time. Comics have existed for a long time. Some artists have done it. So that's proof that it exists, and I can actually do it myself. So the risk that I took was making sure that my wife trusted who I am, trusted me, and not me trusting her. And now she is my business partner. She is my business manager. And when Lee was talking about processes and workflows, she handles all my billing. She handles the accounting. We have an accountant. She handles all the money I own, my websites, everything. She handles all those things, and I have to trust that I have a good teammate who cares about my career and about what I do, so that I can continue doing my best and doing what I can with my art and keep moving forward. And I have to tell you, it's a good risk, and it has been paying off. Last year, I made the most money I ever made as an artist, as a working artist, and that's because I focused on the art, and then somebody else handled the paperwork. This year, I plan on making a lot more money than that, and every year, keep rolling and rolling and rolling. And last year, I added 2 interns to my roster, and this year, before the year's over, I will have 2 other ones, because the interns that I started with last year, they need to graduate to become their own and be further ahead in their art career than they were when I found them. And so that's how I live my life. I'm all for it.
Well, I want to talk about the calculated risks, always having a long view, playing a shorthand but having a long view, and making leaps of faith. which goes back to believing in yourself. So for me, I took one of the most calculated risks that I took was having another job that was supporting me at the time that I started my own company. So that was my safety net, right? So if it also gave me an opportunity to build a network, to gain traction, and to get my name out there. And also, working for other lawyers meant I had access to people who've been around longer than I had, and I could take them issues that I had with new clients, like meeting client expectations, So I had that experience at my fingertips. So that was a calculated risk because, I had something to fall back upon if it didn't work out. So that lasted for about 14 months, and then that job ended. Just the contract ran out. And so I was faced with a decision. Should I go out and get another contract, or should I just go all in? And it wasn't 100% all in because, like Marcus, I was living with a parent. It was my mom, and I was just laughing the whole time you were talking because I've been there, and I know. And when you're a grown woman, you're not, it's tough to bite the bullet and go live with your parent. But it was an opportunity to less overhead for me, So for my startup phase, for my seed phase, because I was seeding my own startup, okay? I had no VCs, I had no angels, except for my mother was an angel, basically, because she supported me, rent-free, utility-free. But I bit that bullet and I lived with her. And I had a friend from my past come up to me and say, hey, do you know how to buy and sell companies? I was like, you know what? No, but I'm going to learn how. so I played that at Longview. I was looking at the Longview. I bought a company with him. I helped him buy a company and then sell it. And it took us 21 months, but we did it. And it was just staying focused and being willing to learn new things and take risks. And then I closed that transaction, and I could have easily bought a house right then and there. And trust me, the temptation was great. When you're living with a parent, there is nothing better to motivate you to get out of the house than...
I was this close to living in my car.
So much.
Just going to go to Walmart and live in the parking lot.
So, but instead, I saw it as a finite amount of money. And once that ran out, I would be kind of up a creek. So I was like, how am I going to generate? How am I going to, again, looking at that long view, how am I going to reinvest this money in my business so I can continue to make money, right? So that's what you're constantly thinking is how am I going to create more business in the long run? And so I spent that whole year traveling. I traveled to LA a bunch of times. I went to conferences. I met producers. I started networking more than ever. I went to Boston. I went to Chicago. I went everywhere. And I just started building bridges. And I got my first film that way that I was co-producing. It was a leap of faith because I honestly was sitting and I was looking at the mentors. That was another thing. I just had great mentors, and they were telling me, these are people way more experienced than I am, and I'm not proud. I'm just going to say, well, what do you think I should do? And I'll listen to it and consider it. So I took myself to the Produce By conference in LA. Didn't know a single soul, but just followed my heart and was listening for people talking about things that attracted me. And I started walking up to people just cold, just with no introduction. And so it was just being brave and not being afraid to go out and ask for help and to build bridges. And so that's what I did. And I bit the bullet, lived with my mom one more year. And as a result of that, my traction was hugely increased at the end of the year. My revenue had hugely increased. And this year I was able to move out and open an office in Old Fourth Ward. And so yeah. So, this is a true story. 5 years ago, I finished law school, didn't have a job, couldn't even get a Christmas job at Macy's, right? And then 5 years later, I bring myself back into the city. I have 2 companies, and I'm doing better than ever. So it's possible to do those things, but you got to listen to those. These guys, and we're sharing words of wisdom that we've paid with blood, sweat, and tears. And on that note, I know we're out of time almost. But just in closing, couple quick things. I want Dan and Marcus to give us their words of wisdom, their parting words of wisdom, and I'm just going to get mine out of the way real quick. But there's a great movie with Robert De Niro in it, and I'm going to forget the name of it, but he's like an art thief, and he talks about he's brought in by this young art thief played by Edward Norton, and he talks about it's such a good movie, and he talks about everybody's got talent. We've all got talent. We have tons and tons of talent in this business, but not everybody has discipline. That's the truth. You find out what you're made of when you really focus on discipline. It's discipline that wins, not talent. Discipline and talent, I should say. So discipline, focus on discipline, and find ways to build that discipline, you know, and you'll find that it just plays out into every aspect of your life. Marcus?
Yeah, I think I can honestly say, if you're trying to do business, I don't care how timid. People don't believe me now because I've talked to over 500 people this year so far at conventions and things. But I'm trying to like tell my daughter, I was the shyest child that if you didn't talk to me, I didn't talk. I was drawn, you know, and I wasn't like mean or, you know, anti. I just didn't see the need to talk unless someone asked me something or someone was trying to get my attention. So the biggest thing in business now is what you just said, is you have to first build that bridge of communication. I don't care what kind of business you're doing. You can be selling soap. You could be trying to sell a comic. You could be, you know, a seamstress, a graphic designer. Okay, when you are out and about, you have to get outside of this. Well, I'm not comfortable with talking about my stuff, but you have to kill that side of it. The most successful thing I've seen at every turn is the person that's saying, "Hey, how are you?" You know, and just building that first initial bridge. From there, you actually have to, you know, if you don't know how to hold a conversation, I'm sure there's classes, I'm sure YouTube has some videos, but just be genuine, be yourself. If you're annoying as your default, fix that. I don't know what I can say, but just try to be your most genuine self and be, you know, be open to having a conversation and building a new bridge. Because business is about connections. Okay? I don't know of any business that says, I made $100,000 by talking to no one and connecting with no one. I haven't seen that. I'd love to start a business like that. But that's where it comes down to. I'm doing art and posting it online. And then when people post and say, hey man, that's great, I do this crazy thing, which is I reply and say thanks. And I've gotten compliments from the first time I started building my audience, which is, no man, this guy's really cool. He really responds to my comments. I was like, oh, it's a thing? Okay, well yeah, thanks for that. You know, it just keeps going. But I go to comic conventions. I'm looking at industry level artists that are at their table like this. People are right there in front of their table, and they look up and say, hey, they look back down. Okay, and no, the person gets alienated, like, guess you don't want to have my money. And you know, they come by my table. I got complimented in Boston last year. Young Asian couple walk by the table. I say, hey, how's it going? Hey man, how's it going? Gets about a couple feet away, turns back around with his wife, and says, what is this? I start telling them everything. They buy the comic, they buy the posters, they start leaving, and then from there, I'm gonna wrap it up. He basically compliments and says, you're the only person that talked to me through this whole artist alley. Him and his wife walked through all of artist alley. I was the only person that said hello. So he was like, thank you. I appreciate that.
Word up. Alright, so I'm going to keep it short. Number one, Artist King. ArtistKing.org. Check out the website. We're on YouTube, iTunes, and Flipboard magazine. I share everything that I can find. I have interviewed over 90 artists about their processes and their career. That's on iTunes. Check that out. It's a podcast. And on YouTube, I'm publishing all panels that I'm in, all panels that I produce, all conversations that I have with artists. Because there's so much information out there, and we all can't chase every artist down. So I've done that for you. Check it out. ArtistKing.org. The last thing is, my advice is long. So if you subscribe to the Artist King newsletter, I'm going to share a page where I put all my thoughts about entrepreneurship. Artist-Artrepreneurs, okay? So I have a page for that. It has a lot of advice and links. So if you subscribe to the Artist King newsletter, I'm going to send it out in the next week or so, and you'll have access to all this information that I put down.
Yeah.
And my big idea, and that I teach all the time, and if you come to the Artist King meetups, we'll go over it, is I have a 4-step process for entrepreneurship. Number 1 is vision. The second part is goals. The third part is planning. And the last part is calendar. Alright? So you want to talk to me about that? I'll tell you more about it.
Thank you, everybody. And